Cardi B's BBL stinks like garbage. This is what Stefon Gibbs said in his recent interview to explain why he broke up with Cardi B. The fact of the matter is, after Cardi B ended the relationship with Offset or their marriage together, Stefon Gibbs is the rebound guy, and they've been together for just a few months, I believe. It hasn't been a year yet, and he decided to break up the relationship or whatever they were having, their fling. And he said in the interview that her BBL smells like garbage. And the internet went crazy about this because they couldn't believe that he's a man and he's supposed to always find a way that he can explain himself, even though the quickest way is to be just direct. As men, we are always direct amongst ourselves. Hopefully, the internet is going crazy because of the way that he said it. And what do you think? The fact of the matter is, he's just being honest and he's just speaking his truth and his experience with it. And perhaps the smell has gotten so much into his head that he's not thinking anymore and he just wanted to blur it out. And sometimes that happens to us. Sometimes there's so much frustration and maybe he was promised something that beyond the expectation that he actually lived with Cardi B. But let's take it from the perspective of the BBL stinking. That could have been the case, but how is that? I really want to know how is that, because one thing is for sure, the BBL is not something pus coming out of it or there's a cut. I'm not sure because I didn't see it and I'm not in his situation to see it. I would never be and I wouldn't want to be. You got to think about this, because how is it that he could smell her BBL? And the fact of the matter is, what we must assume is that the smell maybe wasn't coming from the BBL. The smell was coming from her private area. Could have been that she had a UTI, some form of infection from her lifestyle or from just being involved with multiple guys at the same time. I don't mean this mess up thing, but I'm just mean like one after the next or during the same moment. That could be something that as guys that you have to think about as well, because when you are dealing with a lady, you're doing your thing and you realize there's a smell down there because for whatever reason, and it could mean that she's going through some form of UTI. A lot of the time is that it could mean that there's a lot of different semen inside of her, or her pH level is unbalanced. But whatever the case might be, whatever the situation might be, that the fact of the matter is the smell was still there. And probably he felt offended for the fact that she thought that she could have given him anything that he would accept it, or he would try to mention it to her. There are some guys who don't really care about, what it turned out to be or what your presentation was. What they really care about is the bottom line, the results. The result is that he didn't have a good experience with her intimately because of the smell of the stink that he actually claimed that he was experiencing. And I can imagine for him that's definitely not a good experience at all, because he wouldn't want to be in such a position. And the internet is going crazy because of the way that he expressed himself, saying that it smells like garbage. But maybe the way that he's expressing himself is also equating to the amount of frustration that he faced, that he went through because of this situation. And it could have been maybe he got traumatized, because think about it, the amount of length that he had to go through to actually be able to be with Cardi B, and then this happened. That's a L, that's a turn down. That's like a terrible news for him, and probably that creates a lot of frustration in his situation. And at the same time, he had to speak in a way that is frustrating. I'm not trying to defend him in any way, but I understand. Now the internet is going crazy that he could have explained himself in a different way, but there are sometimes some situation you can't be everything. You can't be a master speaker and to everyone, because the internet, some people are saying that it's disrespectful that he had to talk about Cardi B like this, but also I find it disrespectful. Not me, but I would say this, that it is disrespectful. But maybe she didn't smell it, maybe she didn't care, maybe she think that, well, she is Cardi B, then most guys would want to be with her. That's something that he could put aside and just please. I guess at this point it is clear that Stefon Gibbs did not take this lightly. He found it very much foul. I think it's good that he actually speaks speak about it because it is his reality. It is his truth of what he went through. And that's really not a nice thing, really. It's not a nice thing to actually be going through to be with someone and then it's smelling there. And the other side, if it was him, even Offset, back in the days, Offset used to say that Cardi B's private parts stink. This is 2 persons in a row. Could it be that this is actually what's happened? And a lot of the time, some people's ego are so fragile that you cannot really speak to them and say directly what is actually going on. But whether it's true or not, but I'm sure some of you perhaps have experienced something like this or close to this, and you definitely would know that it's not a pleasant experience at all. Not that it is somewhat traumatizing, but it is quite disgusting. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Was Stefon Gibbs right for speaking out, saying the reason why he broke up with her? Or he shouldn't have. He should have kept it to himself. Some people might say he should have kept it to himself. Maybe it's like looking out for the fellas, letting us know, giving us a tip from the inside of what's actually going on, because perhaps we would want to know. And for a guy to really come out and say it like this, some guys can say these things if they have experienced it with somebody and they had a smell, especially if you were not doing sports, or especially if you didn't have a long day. I do understand if you had a long day at work, all human, we sweat and we develop odors. It doesn't seem like you wouldn't think that Cardi B is a type of person. Even in her song, she says she don't cook, she don't clean. Is not the type of person who is doing some form of excessive work that she will stink that bad, because Stefon Gibbs is talking about it and he is expressing himself about it in that form, in that manner. That means it was a very terrible smell for him to look past it.